Hello. We'll get started here in just a moment. Give a chance for everyone to get here. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. I'm sure more folks will be popping in here shortly. Want to kick off our session for today, Crystal Grids for Manifestation and Emotional Healing. So before we get started, I'd love to know where everybody's from. So if you see your chat box there, go ahead and type in the city that you are calling in from, just so we get a sense of where everybody's here coming in to the chat with us here. And if you can't use the chat, let me know. Well, obviously you can't, but we're going to figure this out. Let's see. I'm just now setting up my Zoom. I'm usually using Google Hangouts, so this is a bit new for me. Let me see if I can make sure. Not sure if the chat works for you guys. Let's go into the settings. Oh, it says host and co-host. Everyone, there we go. Now the chat should be open up. Everybody can chat. Let me try to type in here. Awesome. Ellenwood. Okay. I should probably ask what state because I know that I created the Orlando group. That's what I was thinking. Yes, Georgia. Perfect. Welcome. It's pretty interesting how meetup, yeah, New Orleans. Wow. I created this Orlando, Florida chat, or I should say group, yet we have people from all over the US. So that's pretty cool. Welcome, guys and gals. Let's see here. So we got Orlando, New Orleans, Georgia. Very good. Very good. So I'm actually here, of course, in Orlando, Florida, and I moved here from Cincinnati, Ohio. Uh, well, let's see, I moved here in 2023 because I wanted to be closer to the beach, like so many of us here, and I've been enjoying it. Delray Beach, welcome, very nice, and that's kind of where it lands me today. So I'm actually the founder of My Peace Guru, which is something interesting that came about because I always wanted to be a yoga teacher. So I went to get my yoga teacher certification and I wasn't sure where to get started. I knew that I wanted to do it quickly. And so I actually looked online and I found a thing called Yandara. And essentially, they do a 2 week boot camp in Hawaii to teach you how to be a yoga teacher. So I said, this is interesting. And I asked a friend of mine, and they said that they had done it before, and it's amazing. Take lots of pictures. And so I did it. It was life changing. I went there for 2 weeks. I went ahead and stayed for 2 more weeks, got an Airbnb, and checked out some Buddhist temples, and also got my Reiki 2 certification. So pretty sweet. And that's really what led me to create what is my brand here called My Peace Guru. And it was just sort of a thing where, you know, just to give you a little background, I have owned a digital marketing agency for the last 15 years, and that's awesome. And that's in my masculine energy, right? But I was really leaning into my feminine energy, and I was really interested in starting sort of a business that aligns with that spiritual side of me, which obviously has always existed and never been able to be fully expressed. So in 2019, like I said, I went to Hawaii and got my teacher certification and all of that. But that's when the world shut down. As soon as I got back, I think I went there in maybe September. And then next thing you know, COVID happened, right? Everything shut down and it was like, wow, what's happening? And it was a little bit of a stressful time as we all recall. And I also know that I just felt like there was something more in my life. Actually went through a bad breakup at that time and it was just a lot of things happening, and so I was really looking for peace, and I found myself trying to learn different ways to channel inner peace. And along with that journey, of course, I read a lot of books because, like most of us, what else did we have to do with all of our time but watch Netflix and read and things like that? So I started to pick up books like this is a really good one, The Book of Crystal Grids. And I started to learn more about the power of crystals in that sense. Now, I had been attracted to crystals for like 15 years, right? Always just, even as a kid, I remember on the playground, I would be playing with rocks. I don't know why, with my best friend. So I've been always naturally drawn to these crystals and things like this. And I had never really learned about the power of the crystal grids, right? Which is an opportunity for you to like manifest through it. And so I have developed lots of different grids here with my business and just in me and understanding like how to do it. And what I find fascinating right now is so many people are more interested in this holistic kind of woo-woo stuff right now. I'm actually amazed because I started my business, like I said, 2019, 2020, and nobody really cared about sound baths or crystal grids. And now I can't believe I had 300 people sign up for my sound bath live streaming. I'm like, wow, this wasn't happening X years ago. So, what that tells me is a lot of people are seeking inner peace and they're looking for ways to really kind of find that calm and that place right now, more so than they were several years ago. So, I came here and I actually jumped into this meetup group. Somebody else created it and then they needed a new leader. And like anything in my life, it fell into my lap and I said, okay, I'll be the next leader of this meetup group. And so I've just decided to take it on and see what ways I can connect with my spiritual community, which is really the heart and essence of what I'm passionate about, truly. So for today, I'd love to teach you guys about crystal grids. Go ahead and type in the chat box if you have worked with crystal grids before. Type me a yes if you have or a no if you have never, so we can kind of get a sense for like anybody has a little experience or maybe even never heard of crystal grids and the power of such. I'll give you guys a moment to type in the chat there. Never heard. Okay. Yeah, it's interesting. So, another question to ask for you guys. Looks like the chat's just catching up. Wow, I'm surprised. Now, type me a yes if you wear crystal jewelry, right? Or you have some kind of like affinity to crystals, right? Like, yes, okay, definitely. Like, I rarely go out without wearing my crystal bracelets, right? You love crystals, wear the jewelry, never, not sure about a crystal grid. Okay, perfect. Yeah. And what's interesting too, and feel free to jump in the chat anytime you guys can chat with me that way. I always surround myself with crystals either in my car while I sleep, at my desk. Yeah, wearing bracelets. I mean, I have all of these crystals, and sometimes when I'm on a client call, sometimes even when it's a difficult client per se, I like to have my rose quartz on hand. And it's something interesting happens. Like the client that I thought was going to be difficult becomes really easy to work with. So I really do lean on my crystals, and there are certain crystals, especially the rose quartz I found. I'm always been called to. That's a really good crystal for the heart and for healing. So I tend to always have my rose quartz handy. And of course, my massive quartz, right? This is a beautiful quartz crystal, power generator, if you will. That's another good one to have on hand. I also love selenite. Hand, check. Um, have you guys heard of selenite? Put a yes if you have. This is a very powerful crystal, beautiful, because it clears all other crystals, right? And so I like to have this one on hand. I actually use it like to clear my own energy. I actually put this crystal in the doorways of most every room, especially the front door. Like I have a long selenite wand, if you will, and I put it in on top of the doorway. You know how most of us have the little ledge there? Because it's supposed to clear energy. I have one in my car, so if somebody rides with me, I kind of clear out their energy. So this is a really good stone to have on hand. Uh, Selenite, of course. And then of my standby black tourmaline. This is a really good stone when it comes to protection. It also helps with EMF. right? So I'm in front of a computer right now. This is a really good stone to have here as you're working with electronics. So that's a good one to have on hand. And then also I have labradorite. Type a yes if you're familiar with labradorite. This is a really good stone if you're an empath. Not heard of it? Okay, it's a beautiful, beautiful stone, and I tend to have it around me. Now, someone taught me this is kind of cool, a little woo-woo, but I love having these stones on me and around me and with me. But I had somebody tell me that you can literally say to yourself, I am labradorite, and you can just shield yourself in the power of a crystal. And I know that sounds woo-woo, but I'm telling you, this can work because of the power of our mind, because of placebos. But if you don't have it handy, you just say, I am labradorite, and you can own that crystal energy. So those crystals will help us in our time of need. So we will jump right in here. Just want to give a quick introduction. So again, thank you for joining me today for this magical journey into the world of crystal grids for manifestation and emotional healing. Before we begin, I always like to take a deep breath and let it out slowly so we can kind of create some space for this training. So let's just take a few breaths, so we can channel in after a long day, perhaps. Just relax and allow the message to come through here. So I like to get ourselves into a nice peaceful state. And again, whether you're new to crystals or deepening your existing practice, my intention today is to offer you a grounded, heart-centered path to creating your own crystal grid rituals. So by the end of our time together, you'll feel more aligned, clear, and empowered to co-create with the Earth's energies, as we like to call them. So, what is a crystal grid? Well, a crystal grid is a geometric arrangement of crystals charged with intention to direct energy toward a specific goal. So, for example, I have what I have created as a romance grid. And if you're familiar with crystals, you'll note that the number one crystal that I'm using is called green aventurine, and that's the middle crystal here. So anytime you're creating crystal grids, you always kind of have to have a center crystal piece, and that kind of grounds the entire grid. And then typically you have, a number of grids, crystals that go around it, and then an outer layer of crystals. So that's really what the theory is behind the crystal is you have the main one crystal that's kind of building the ultimate energy, and then the other crystals sort of pull into that main crystal. So the way that these crystals work is they need to be in a pattern or a shape, if you will. So this is like a geometric arrangement of them charged with the intention to direct the energy towards your specific goal. So whether your goal is healing, manifestation, clarity, protection, I have created crystal grids for healing. So this is a specific grid, and this grid actually has the first main grid being a red jasper, which is known to ground and center your personal energy. It promotes mental clarity. And then around this, we have in row two, I call it row one and then row two, the rose quartz. So those help open the heart. They inspire deep inner healing and bring feelings of peace. And then the next kind of roundabout layer is citrine, which helps to promote emotional well-being and increases positive energy. So, like I said, I did a lot of reading when I had time. And one of the books that I would recommend is called The Crystal Bible. Type it yes if you have this book or have heard of this book. Just curious. Yeah, I'm sorry, it might be a little blurry just because the screen. So I'll try to hold things up as clearly as I can. So have you heard of this? Yeah, the Crystal Bible. This is an amazing book if you're just getting started with crystals because you can literally open any page up and it'll give you a very great definition of each crystal, the powers of that crystal. Because when I was building my crystal grids, I had to think about like what is the power behind certain crystals and why do certain crystals work better in my grid than others, right? So, especially when it comes to a healing grid, I mean, the rose quartz is one of the most gentle stones. And so you'll see that I use rose quartz quite a bit in my grids because it's heart opening, it's kind of a safe, gentle stone. Whereas I have an abundance grid that I've created, and I have different stones on that. Citrine is one of the most powerful stones when it comes to manifesting money. So that's why you'll see green aventurine is in the middle of my grid. This is actually known as the stone of opportunity, which helps you manifest wealth and prosperity. So green, if you're looking for like a money stone, green aventurine is a great one. I have a lot of them on hand actually. And then another great stone in my grid I put here is called the tiger's eye because it attracts good luck and prosperity. It gives you courage and helps you maintain your wealth, which is important. You know, it's one thing to be rich, it's another to hold on to it. And then, of course, the citrine helps you envision and manifest your goals and powers your imagination and willpower. So these three stones are extremely great for this goal, which is manifesting abundance. And that's why, again, having a crystal Bible, if you're just not really clear on like the powers of each stone, this book is going to, number one, help you understand like, okay, what is the best crystal for my grid? And then you can start, putting them into these arrangements. So I also have a romance grid, and let's see, I also have a chakra grid that I've created because type a yes if you're clear on like what chakras are, and maybe you've not heard of what a chakra is. Okay, just seeing if, yeah, okay, cool. So we're pretty advanced class. That's awesome. So I created a chakra grid as well because I realized how important it is for us to be aligned, so that all of that divine wisdom can come into our bodies and we can, keep on our sacred path. So I also created what we call a grid even for your chakras. And so, because I know so much about these different stones, I knew that the clear quartz was the best choice for the crown chakra, right? And then the third eye chakra really resonates with the amethyst. And the throat chakra really is good with the lapis lazuli. And the heart chakra, again, rose quartz is a no-brainer. The solar plexus chakra, I used the green aventurine. And the sacral chakra, I went with the red jasper. And the root chakra, I picked the tiger's eye. And we all know that each chakra kind of has a different color. So these are perfect when it comes to the different colors, as they are. But what I do when I build my grids, because I actually buy these tiny little crystals, which you can't really see, right? And I make these crystal grids and I actually sell them because, believe it or not, people want to have these, ready to go crystal grids, which I actually was introduced to my first crystal grid at a psychic fair or spiritual festival. And I thought it was so cool because they sold me the entire kit, right? It was like the little card, it was all the crystals. And then what I did is I took like my glue, if you will, and I glued the crystals down, on my grid because they're tiny crystals for this case. And then I have this crystal grid ready to go. So in my house now, I actually have these crystal grids all over. You can see that I've glued on the little stones, so they're not going anywhere. But this means that I now have a powerful grid. And this I literally put in the relationship corner of my house because I also know about feng shui. So type a yes if you have heard of feng shui, or maybe not. Sort of curious. Okay, no. Yeah, feng shui is amazing. We got a few no's, a few yeses. Okay, perfect. So two no's. Okay, very cool. So I love feng shui. I actually had a lady come to my house. I had a really bad breakup, right? And I just needed the energy reset in my home. So I said, you know what? I need to have this lady come over. And she taught me how to place certain things in certain rooms in order to change the energy. And one of the things was that I would take each of these grids and I would take this one and I would put it in the relationship corner. So if you're curious to learn a little bit more about feng shui and how they relate to grids and things, when you first walk into your home, the first area is the career placement. Like it's usually best designated with the color black or black stones, like black tourmaline would be a good stone to have there. So my entire house is actually gridded. And luckily my boyfriend doesn't think I'm crazy. He encourages this behavior. So I have stones and I have these grids all over the house. In fact, he has his own wealth grid in his office. And, it's a beautiful thing because I have a partner who supports all of my interesting habits. But again, if you walk into your home or even into any room, just a little education on feng shui, immediately to your right, you're going to be facing your relationship corner. So this would be a really good corner of either your house or even the room to put your romance grid. And so whenever I go into that corner of my room, which happens to be my bathroom, which I have lots of rose quartz and selenite uh, crystals in there to clean the area. Since it's a bathroom, it needs to have a little bit of more cleanliness to it, as well as my rose quartz. So whenever I go there, I have like a little area that this, is showing. And I always just kind of look at my grid and I read it. So you may not be able to read it, but it says take a deep breath, place your palm over the grid, and say your affirmation out loud to program the crystals. So step one is to, place the crystals, and step two is to put your hand over it. I mean, I don't know how many of you have heard of Reiki or experienced it, yes or no? It's pretty powerful, actually. It's similar to heard of it, yes. So because I have the Reiki 2 level, I'm able to charge things, and we really all are. I mean, I know I'm Reiki certified, but we all have the healing abilities within us, whether you are officially, and told so. But there's power in our hands. That's why we have mudras. That's why we do all of these really interesting things with our hands. They are such miracle workers. Just a quick story. I remember when I was little, my grandma had a headache, and I literally went up to her and I said, "Okay, let me take it away." And I put my hand on her head like this. And she's like, "It's gone." And then I just went and played with my toys. I'm like, "Yeah, of course it's gone." Like I had this inner knowing as a child that I could simply put my hand on my grandma's head and the headache would be gone. And the belief, placebo, whatever you want to call it, and that was just a reality for me. So I don't know in a previous life if I was a healer, anything could happen. But it's been an inner knowing that we have the ability to heal, and the hands are powerful tools for that. So when it comes to the crystal grid, the idea is that you can place your palm over the grid, right, and kind of activate it. And then you want to say an affirmation like this one that I created says, I am grateful for the love that finds me now and forever. I am divine love. So that's really what these crystal grids are about, right? It's like anything in life. It's the feng shui, it's the belief that if you put something in a certain place of your home and you look at it and it's in the wealth corner, you're going to start thinking wealth thoughts, because let's face it, all of this stuff is truly about mindset. And I think that's what's so amazing about the placebo effect, right? You eat a sugar pill and suddenly you're healed. Nobody can explain it. Guess what? It's mindset. Same thing with crystal grids, right? We're creating this crystal grid with intention. We were intending to attract love, or we're intending to attract more abundance. But the sheer act of us creating this grid and placing these crystals and put our hands over it and saying affirmations, all of that stuff actually does start you subconsciously thinking wealthy, healthy, peaceful, loving thoughts. Every time you see this, every time you sort of pray over it, if you will, whatever you want to call it. That is the magic of this stuff, truly, and I think that's what's kind of cool. But having the intention, putting your energy into things like this is a beautiful thing. And it just reminds you every day when you look at your crystal grid, this is my intention, and this is what I'm trying to manifest. So some best practices too. I like to have my Palo Santo, which is a really smells so good. I light that up, or a sage or something, and I like to cleanse my crystals, before I place them. That's always a good practice. And I can also cleanse my grid every once in a while, maybe put a little smoke over it, things like that. And you do want to treat these grids with love, right? Because they are your manifestation tools. So maybe you put them on an altar, or maybe, you could even put them in a sacred space. Maybe you don't want your company to see it. That's okay. But just, make sure that you can see it, that you can charge it up with your hands, that you cleanse that, because it's a pretty powerful tool. Now, I also have these pretty cool, I guess you would say, it's like a little cloth. I use these as well. This is when I want to like really do some serious manifestation. And I have all of my crystals, like I would put my rose quartz in the middle, and then I would put my other quartz around it, in a certain pattern. So there's all sorts of things. I offer these too through my Etsy store. I have literally like these cloths, and I have these crystals that go with it ready to go. But, so I like kind of the do it yourself mode, and I also like the do it for me mode, where it's like, okay, here's the whole kit, everything you need. I understand what crystals make sense, and you just receive it and you go with it. But if you want to create your own grids, like I said, this is a good book to start to learn, number one, what are the crystals that resonate? Because crystals pick you, you know? I don't know if you've ever been to a crystal shop and you kind of put your hand over all the crystals, and I just sort of let my hand stop when I feel heat. And it almost is like that crystal is calling to me, right? And I'm like, okay, this is my crystal, and then I choose that crystal. I always find that crystals find me. I will share like a quick story with you because I think it's relevant. I went to Las Vegas a couple weeks ago, and I will say that I'm an empath, right? And raise your hand if you know what an empath is, or you probably are one, right? Say yes. I'm sure we'll see a lot of yeses out here. So, as an empath, I tend to absorb a lot of energy from other people. Yes, you are one too. You understand. And Vegas is a tough spot to be in when you have that energy. You have so much energy in Vegas. And I'm telling you, I don't get panic attacks often, but I felt one coming on. I was just like, wow, I couldn't find a quiet place. It was so much energy overload. And it was so funny because all I could think and all I kept saying to my boyfriend is, can we go to that crystal shop? Like, I need to like put my hand on a crystal. I need to ground myself. Like, there's so much going on here. And I found this crystal spoke to me, and it's the Angel Aura Quartz crystal, right? And it is a beautiful crystal. Like, wow, right? It's just like gorgeous. What's funny about this crystal, when I read about it, it said angel aura quartz is a highly vibrational geode commonly used by energy healers to cleanse and align the chakras. This geode is thought to fill environments with endless happiness and uplifting energy. If one is feeling emotionally unstable or down, Angel Aura Quartz is great for immediate rejuvenating energy, helping you to embrace your inner joy. It is also used to enhance the healing properties of other crystals. And I was so drawn to this crystal. I bought it. I held on to it for dear life in Las Vegas. And it was like, I felt so much better. And I don't know, it's just, I can't explain it, but like that crystal called to me. And I was like a new person. And it's a beautiful crystal. Thank you. And so, that's a wonder of crystals, right? They often find you in the most important time in your life. So to get back to the crystal grids, so again, these grids, they can be large, they can be small, they can be elaborate, they can be simple. What really matters when it comes to these crystals is the intention and your energetic presence, right? So you have a lot of different ways that you can do that. So what's neat about crystals is they are sacred geometry. You'll see those patterns in mandalas and nature, even ancient temples, right? And all of this stuff is related to these crystal grids. So when we place these crystals in the grid, we're creating a mini energetic power station, right? The crystals communicate with one another. And with your intention as the fuel, the grid becomes a living, breathing manifestation energy. So it's a pretty powerful thing that you can do. I mean, sure, we have crystals, we wear them and all that, but when you make these crystals on a grid and you empower them to work together, that's a super way to charge them up. So so why use a crystal grid instead of just one stone or a collection of crystals? So the grid allows you to amplify your intentions through geometry and synergy. It brings coherence to scattered energy or emotions, and it can work with both personal and planetary energies, right? Depending on your astrological sign. There's actually crystals that work better for others. This is something that I do again. This Peace Guru business, by the way, is my hobby. It's definitely not going to make me rich any day soon, but I absolutely love this business because it lets me be creative. And so, something that I've done is I've created these astrology like mystery boxes. And so, I love when I get an order in because again, I don't get hundreds of orders. Every once in a while I get an order. I love putting these together because anytime I put this order in, I choose like a specific card that is drawn to me out of the deck that I feel is energetically aligned with the person who's receiving this box, right? So this is just an example of a box that I put together. But what's cool about these boxes is I focus them on astrology. So this is like a Pisces box. It has all kinds of little cute things. Like this one has a Pisces, what you call it, candle. I also include like a little incense packet. I also do a scroll, which is so much fun because when they give me their name, their date of birth, the time of birth, and the city, I actually am able to pull what's called a natal chart that allows me to give them a very detailed report about who they are astrologically. Type me a yes if you know what a natal chart is. Just curious. Because that's another class that I'm teaching. I know way much about random things, like a lot of you, right? I love natal charts. I'm always blown away at how accurate they are. And I've even run some for friends and family, and they'll be like, this is literally me. So I find it fascinating. But in each packet, I have like four little bags of random little gifts that I put in here, like I was saying. But my favorite part of this mystery box is I also provide them with this packet of stones, right? So, and I give them like the big stones, right? Probably four of these bigger stones. And these stones basically are an alignment with the particular astrological sign. So each kit comes with four stones that are really empowering for the person's astrological needs, which again, this is just a fun hobby of mine. And I've had so many people buy these as gifts and they'll buy like four of them for family members. I'm like, wow, this is so cool. Again, not like I'm breaking the bank over here. And I'm probably not even making money. I just have like a stock load of like all these cool trinkets that I put in these boxes, and it's just fun because before I send them out, I put Reiki on it, right? I send my good energy into the package, and by the time it gets to them, the Reiki is popping out of the box. It's a lot of fun. But my point is that I know that certain stones are more powerful depending on which astrological sign you are. And so that's really what I wanted to bring to light. And when you're building your crystal grids, that's something to keep in mind. Like with Pisces, aquamarine is a really good stone. Obviously, it's got the blue properties, and they tend to do extremely well. So that, and also amethyst works. So I know all this random knowledge of what stones work better based on your astrology sign. But that's key when it comes to building your grids because you have the ability to create it really based on your astrology and sign and what resonates most with you. Let me see. I think we got a question. What about Cancer? Yes, Cancer. Okay, so Cancer, actually, the best stone for them is rose quartz because I know so much about astrology. I know you guys have the biggest hearts in the world. And so you kind of have to be cautious of how big your heart is. So rose quartz is actually one of the best stones for a Cancer. And if you have other questions, feel free to jump in at any time. I have limitless knowledge of random things like this. Happy to help you guys out. So getting back to this, let me see if you thank you. And yes, you're right. Big heart. Oh yeah, I have lots of my friends are Cancer. Because I'm a Pisces, we tend to make friends with Cancer and Scorpio because they're also water signs. So I have tons of Cancer friends and they are the nicest people ever. So let's talk about the real fuel behind every crystal grid, which is intention. So crystals are powerful, but they don't work alone, right? Your intention is the activation key. So when you consciously declare what you want to call in or what you're ready to release, you send a clear message to your energy field and the universe. So intentions are different from goals. A goal is usually something tangible and future focused, whereas an intention is about energetic alignment in the now. So examples of powerful intentions would be like I open my heart to deep emotional healing. I call in aligned opportunities and soul level abundance. I release fear and step into my truth. So before you even lay down like your first crystal, you want to pause and drop into your heart, right? Feel into what you're truly asking for, not from a place of lack, but from your soul's highest wisdom. Because a strong intention sets the grid into motion and it creates a sacred contract with the universe. So you definitely want to kind of be in a very spiritual state when building this grid. Don't kind of just build it and then check off the box, okay, next, right? You really want to drop into your heart space when you create your grid. That's going to help it. What stones are good for Aquarius? So Aquarius is another sign that does well with blue stones. So what I found to be really good for you guys would be like aquamarine, lapis lazuli is a good stone for you guys because you're more of that kind of airy feel. So Capricorn, ooh, that's a good one. So Capricorn is very earth related. So I would be thinking more, have one of these stones. Carnelian would be a good stone for you guys, a power stone, if you will. Any stone that's red or orange would be really, really good for a Capricorn. So yeah, that's kind of your power stone, if you will. All different. I'm a Sag. Yeah, Sagittarius actually. Yeah, there's a beautiful stone for you guys. I think it's called a garnet. Yeah, I was just looking that up the other day. That's a really good power stone for you guys. Let me see if I have that picture in front of me. FGH. That's a nice stone for you. And yeah, I've just got this one in my head. They come in different colors. Some are red, some are blue-ish. And let's see, Sagittarius again. There's a blue stone that is calling for me, and I am trying to remember the name of that blue stone. Sodalite, there it is. Sodalite is a really good stone for Sagittarius. So, and it's blue. Yeah, absolutely. So, some really good stones for that. Let me see. Does the book go over good stones based on astrology? Um, this book in particular, I don't know that it really highlights that let me look because I have okay, just so you know, I have so many books here about crystals. This book actually, the Crystal Bible doesn't really touch base on the best stone for astrology. It's more like an educational book, but I have lots of books here, like Crystal Reiki. This is another really good book that kind of talks about healing mind, body, and soul. I have another book here called Healing Crystals and Gemstones. Obviously, I really love using these stones for those needs. And then I have another book, of course, called Healing Crystals. Lots of these healing books because I just bought that one last week. It's on my neck right now. Oh, really, Joey? Which one? Which stone? That's so funny. That's amazing. Yeah, you're on the right track for sure. Yeah, here we go. This is awesome. So here's a little page. Literally, I just opened it up in the book because that's how the world works, right? And it gave me a list of all the stones. Sodalite. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Um, so like I just have a book here. It says that for Aquarius, blue sapphire would be really good. And let's see, Cancer was also a pearl. So pearl kind of looks a little bit like the rose quartz too. That would be another good option. Ruby for Leo, that makes total sense. And that's a birthstone though. Oh, these are birthstones. Let's see if there's another section that's crystals for animals. Wow, this is a good book. I don't think that I've read this book. What's this one? Healing crystals? I might have to crack this one back open. I know, right? Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. Healing animals with crystals. Wow, okay. This is actually a book I probably need to pick up again. This book also talks about crystal grids, like we're talking about today. And yeah, this is a really good book. I don't know when it was written, but I need to probably dive back in. So, yeah, good stuff. So yeah, so that's really what we want to do here is choose your crystals. So here's the fun part, right? Selecting your crystals. It truly is the fun part. So different crystals hold different vibrations. When choosing stones for your grid, ask yourself, what am I calling in? What support do I need? So here's some examples, a quick guide. Clear quartz crystals are great for amplification and clarity. It's great for the centerpiece. So if you're struggling to know, like, well, what piece should I put in the center? This is the best piece. This is the most amplifying crystal you can possibly have is the clear quartz. The emotional, healing, compassion, love would be the rose quartz. This would be your go-to. And it's in a lot of my grids because it's a soft, loving stone. And then the next stone to consider would be the amethyst. This is a really good stone for spiritual protection, intuition, and calm. So if you're not familiar with an amethyst, it's a beautiful purple stone. And again, the citrine is a beautiful stone for manifestation, abundance, and joy. And then the smoky quartz is a really good stone for grounding, clearing negative energy. So again, any dark stones, like I said, my black tourmaline, these are really any type of black stone is always going to help you ground. It's always going to help you kind of defeat negative energy. Smoky quartz, black tourmaline, um, gosh, there's so many black stones, but that's the one you want to go for when you need to feel like closer to earth. Red and black stones are good for that. And then, of course, black tourmaline, as I mentioned, protection and energetic boundaries. I mean, this one, when I was going through a rough time, I could have wore this on my neck. Like, it was like, wow, I needed this stone. That was a period of my life. I don't need it as much now, thankfully, but that is your go-to stone if you ever feel like you need that level of protection. And actually, I'm just looking at my protection grid, which, curious which ones I put on that one. Oh, I guess I don't have my protection grid here. Abundance, healing, romance, romance. Now I'm just curious because I have a bunch of grids here that I've created. I have a good feeling that the protection one probably has some type of black stone in it. I'm just going to check it out. Yeah, here we go. Here's my protection grid that I created. And this one, I have black obsidian, which is the number one center stone. So that is one that transmutes negative energy, amplifies manifestations, and offers spiritual protection. And then I have Prenite for my second round stone around the first stone, which protects the aura with an energy barrier, must for healers and energy workers. And then the third stone is the smoky quartz that goes around. And that protects from negativity, guards against psychic attacks, radiation, and EMF. So this is a very powerful grid. And yeah, I really like that one. So you can also use stones based on the chakra system or elemental energies. For example, for emotional healing, water aligned stones like aquamarine or moonstone are ideal. And remember, it's okay to mix tumbled stones with raw pieces and even small chips. Just trust your intuition. If a crystal calls to you, there's a reason. So when I talk about chips, I'm talking about these little stones. These are what we call chips. And that's really what I use when I create my grids because they're just smaller and handier. And those are fine to use as well. So crystal layouts and sacred geometry. So now that you have your crystals and your intention, let's talk about layouts. So the shape of your grid matters. It's not just pretty, it's powerful. So some common sacred geometry patterns are the circle, which equates to unity, protection, wholeness. You can also do a triangle, which is more so for manifestation, transformation, fire energy. You can create a grid that's a square, which is helpful for stability, grounding, earth energy. And also the flower of life, which is what I typically do with most of mine, which is expansion, divine flow, DNA activation. You can do the seed of life for new beginnings, fertility, creativity, and Metatron's cube, which is for spiritual protection, all elements, multidimensional balance. So there's different sort of sacred geometry patterns that you can choose from, and they'll kind of manifest certain things. Okay, let me see if I missed anything. Thank you. And yes, you're right. Oh, I'm sorry to hear about that, Renee, with your heart. My stones are good. I love pearls. Okay, just making sure I'm caught up here. So you can draw your own layout, right? You can print one from the internet. You can use a sacred geometry cloth or board. Like I said, I have that cloth here that I use. So it's totally fine, whatever you use, whether it's paper or cloth or whatever. It's just the intention, right? It's just the pattern, the shapes. That's really what we're looking for. So the way you start is you place your anchor crystal, often the clear quartz or selenite, in the center, number one. Then you build your layout symmetrically, moving outward. So you place the first one in the middle, and then you build out your first circle, and then you build out your second circle. And as you place each stone, you need to speak or feel your intention, right? This infuses the grid with your energy. And then how to activate your grid. So now that your crystals are placed and your layout is complete, it's time to activate the grid. So think of activation as turning the switch on, right? Bringing your intention and the energy of your crystals into coherent motion. So there's several ways to do this. The number one is the visualization. So you want to close your eyes and imagine a beam of white light entering the center stone. And then you want to watch it connect to all the surrounding stones, forming an energetic web. And then you can use a crystal wand like a clear quartz or selenite, which, by the way, I believe I have a selenite wand. I have these little wands actually that I typically would put in a kit for folks. If I have one handy, I know. Oh, here we go. In one of my little baggies. I usually get this little wand out. So when I do offer my little kits, it includes like a little selenite wand. And so this little selenite wand basically You can trace the lines between the stones and you start at the outermost point and draw invisible connections to the center, right? So you kind of like use this wand and you bring it in and then you end. And so this kind of really connects the, energy between all stones. And then you want to speak your intention out loud, right? You can say, I activate this grid for the highest good aligned with love, clarity, and divine flow. And that's what really empowers that grid to start working. And then blow gently over the grid or ring a bell, a chime, or a singing bowl to awaken it with vibration. So again, close your eyes, imagine a beam of white light entering the center stone, watch it connect to all surrounding crystals, forming an energetic web. Use your crystal wand and trace the lines, speak your intention, and then create an activation, whether it's ringing a bell, a chime, a singing bowl, or blowing over the grid. So once it's activated, place the grid in a sacred space where it won't be disturbed. Let it work for you continuously. You can revisit it daily to meditate or reinforce the intention. Again, just putting your hand over the grid is a good way to kind of wake it up. So crystal grids are incredibly supportive tools for emotional healing. So here's how you use them intentionally for this purpose. So do you try to make it a continuous line, as in a long, smooth motion rather than up and down short movements? Yeah, I mean, it's not super technical, but yeah, a smooth line is just kind of like going to be a little bit better for just the activation of it. But it's not going to hurt it either way, right? So you're okay. Let's see. So here's how you can use them intentionally, for the purpose of heart healing. Like a heart healing grid, like I mentioned, you really want to look at using a rose quartz, a green aventurine, and a rhodonite in a flower of life pattern. Set the intention that I'm open to give and receive love freely. If you're looking to build a stress and anxiety relief grid, then you might want to be looking at using amethyst, lepidolite, and black tourmaline. And you can lay out a triangle or a circle for grounding and calm. And you would have like the intention of I release overwhelm and return to peace. If you're looking to create a grief and letting go grid, good combination there would be a smoky quartz, Apache tear, and moonstone. And you can use a spiral layout with an intention that I honor my loss and allow healing to unfold. And by the way, if I have your email address, I'm happy to send you these guides. So if you want to drop, I'm trying to think the best way to do this. I don't know that you want to put your email in the chat, but I will give you my email address actually. And if you would like to send me a message, I am more than happy to send you some information in regards to what I'm sharing, because this is a lot to like know. And so I'm happy to send you some of my pre-made concepts for getting you started with these. What are the go-to um, stones that are going to help, and what is a good intention to use if you need some inspiration. So these grids, of course, are not a replacement for therapy or deep emotional work, right? But they are sacred companions that hold space, that amplify intention, and help you gently shift energetic blocks. And you can even write your emotions or intentions on a piece of paper and place them beneath the central stone. So there's a lot of things you can do here. Um, Let's see. So we're going to go ahead and skip through this part. So let's talk about the energetic maintenance, because even powerful tools like crystal grids need a little TLC. So here's how to care for your grid, right? So like I said, you want to use smoke like sage, Palo Santo, or incense. And you want to place them in moonlight, especially during the full moon. So it is important to cleanse your stones, right? Because they can collect dust and maybe some bad energies and things. So smoke over your grid is going to clear out any energy. It's also, again, place them in moonlight, especially during the full moon. That's a good spot for them. And then you can even use a tuning fork, a singing bowl, or just a simple chime, because energy builds up over time. And just like our homes need cleaning, our crystals do too. So, it's good to kind of give them a nice refresh. And you can also reset your intention. If you've noticed that your energy has shifted or the goal has changed, you can feel free to remove the stones. Or in this case, if you've glued them on, maybe it's time for a new grid. And if you don't have them glued down in this case, you can remove the stones, you can cleanse them again, and you can set up a new intention, a new grid layout. So, you have lots of options there with your grid. And grids are fluid, right? They're not fixed in the sense that your intentions can change. Like there was a time when I felt like I needed so much protection. There's just so much, and now I'm feeling really good about that side of my life. And you know, it just depends on what your needs are and what the grid would bring into your life, basically. So if the crystal falls off or calls to be moved, follow the nudge. You know, crystals do have wisdom. They want to work with you. So allow that to happen. Don't worry if the crystal falls off or something happens like this. It's kind of funny because when I was in Las Vegas, I actually had one of these stones in my hand. I might have been like this same stone. And I was holding on for dear life to the stone in this store in Vegas. I was just like, whew, I just had a lot of energy overload because I wasn't really protecting myself well. I always do like a white bubble of light, you know, so I can get people's energies bouncing off of me. But I just was being overwhelmed with energy, I guess. You know, Vegas is just a lot, a lot. And so I was holding this stone in my hand, and suddenly it fell out of my hand and it broke on the floor. I was like, what the heck? I don't know how it happened. It slipped out of my hand and it broke. And the lady was so nice. I was like, I felt like I had to pay for it. She's like, oh, no worries, you're good. And then I Googled it. I was like, what does that mean? Like, how, why did that happen? Why did that stone break, fall out of my hand? That stone apparently was so overwhelmed with my energy and it served its purpose. It absorbed so much of my energy. It leapt out of my hand and its job was done. And it was almost a beautiful symbolic thing because that was something I needed. I felt much better, but that stone almost took the hit for me. Yeah. And yeah, sometimes I feel so drained after meetings and dealing with people. Is there a good crystal for that? Yes, there are lots of good crystals for that. Um, you know, the rose quartz is a good crystal. In fact, one of my good friends, you know, I just felt she didn't have proper self-love for herself. And I gifted her a rose quartz. And I found out the other day, like she has it in her car and she literally looks at it all the time. And it's really precious to her. And I didn't really think much about it. I always seem to have crystals in my bag or whatever. And I'm like, here you go. I knew she needed it actually because her father had just passed away and she was going through a lot of grief. And that was a really good stone for her at that moment. And she has it with her all the time, and I think it's beautiful. But like, yeah, as far as feeling drained, let me think. It really depends on your intention. You know, I think selenite would actually be really good for you, like a stone like this, because this will reset your energy and this will clear a lot of that negative kind of stuff that's stuck, if you will, on you. So I think this kind of crystal would be good as well for you. And that's probably trying to think what else we have over here. No, I really do love my selenite. Yeah, what about fluorite? That's a good one. Let's take a look at fluorite. I've heard of fluorite. Let me see if there's any book here that kind of breaks down the particular stone. Maybe we can dive in a little bit. Be nice if these books had the breakout of a, yeah, this one is a good one actually, fluorite. Let's see if this one's in here. I know it's a green stone. Oh, looks like it's purple too. Wow, okay, so fluorite is linked to Scorpio, Aquarius, and Pisces. Interesting. And symbolizes responsibility and obedience. And it works well on the third eye, and the yellow stones work on the solar plexus chakra. So yeah, this is a pretty interesting stone here. And looks like that. Then kyanite, yeah, helps with balance. That's a really powerful stone too. I had someone tell me that I needed kyanite a couple years ago. I looked it up and it's kind of known as like a psychic stone. And JK, let's see if I can see what they have to say about the kyanite. Hopefully it's in here. I do know what you're talking about. It's a beautiful blue stone. Um, yeah, here we go. Yep, it's like kind of a bluish stone. Kind of looks jagged, right? And this stone is associated with Aries, Taurus, and Libra. And after wearing or using for healing, it should be cleansed under warm running water. Now that's interesting because I will say that you do not want to get your selenite wet. It actually will break down. There are certain stones that cannot get wet, but this kyanite looks like it can, surprisingly. And this one is typically placed on the throat chakra. It lightens the soul and combats lack of feeling, and it symbolizes lightness and leads to new thoughts. And I think I said Aries, Taurus, and Libra are really good for that. But yeah, I've heard about this stone because it's produces positive energy, sharpens the concentration, and encourages calmness. It relaxes, drives away sadness, and makes life seem more worth living. Wow. Okay, that's pretty powerful protective stone right there. So if you guys have any other stone questions, clearly I have my stone book on hand. Yeah, so real life uses for crystal grids, right? So business manifestation grid, like I showed you, like the abundance grid, it's also suggested the pyrite, the citrine, the tiger's eye. That's great grid for abundance and success. And again, that's what I have for my abundance grid right now. So I'm pretty in tune with that. And literally, yeah, I have green aventurine, tiger's eye, and citrine. Relationship grid would be like rose quartz, malachite, garnet. Peace in the home, a good grid for that would be amethyst, blue lace, agate, and selenite. And healing circles or retreat, you can create like large central grids to anchor high vibration energy during like group work. So like when I would do like a sound bath or something in person, like I would typically do like a big grid of crystals to kind of anchor all of the energy in the room. Because I don't know if you've done a sound bath, but sometimes people cry and they release, and there's a lot of energy tossed around the room. And that's a beautiful thing, actually, if you're crying, because that means you're releasing and do not, let it go, basically. So you can even do remote grid work with maps and photos, perfect for supporting loved ones or collective healing from afar. And the beauty of grid work is that it's infinitely adaptable, right? Small, large, solo, group, digital, or even physical actions can happen there. So your next steps, really, I can definitely send you this kind of guide that I put together to help you think of some creative ways that you can create your grids. And I would just start small with, 3 to 5 pieces, and just choose one clear intention for your stone, for your grid work. And I'd love to see your grids online. So if you want to post a picture of your grid on like Instagram, you can tag me at my peace guru. I'd love to see what you guys have going on out there. And remember, again, you guys are the healer, right? The crystals and grids are simply tools that help you remember who you are. And so I just want to like keep that in mind. And I want to also thank you guys for spending this sacred hour with me. And may your intentions bloom from your heart, feel light, and your path to be blessed. So I will open it up for questions. I know we have a few minutes here. Yeah, cost to create. That's a good question. I know that my shop, I must have to look because it's something where I have it on my Etsy store and I just don't even look at my Etsy store that much, honestly. So I need to go to My Peace Guru website and see. When you click on the My Peace Guru website, then you can click on crystal grids. Let me see what I can find here. So, okay, so they're 19.99, and just let's see here. There I have these grids, like I said, for various needs, whether you are looking for abundance or health or wealth or protection. So, and then I have a bigger grid actually that's 34.99, which is the cloth grid. And that includes like the big stones, right? Like this stone is for activating your chakras. But I can do custom work. So if you guys ever want to just email me and say, hi, I need a grid created specifically for this issue, happy to help you build that stone. Yeah, that's a good idea. Let me see if I can drop a link here. Here we go. So this is actually the specific grid items, and that should be helpful. Yeah. Here we go. It's just a little Etsy store here if you guys have any interest. But obviously, this is something that you guys can do. It's a lot of fun. I find it empowering. I have crystal grids all over my house. It's all into various areas. Um, and it's beautiful. These are beautiful things to have, and they're just always a reminder for me that I am my own healer and I can create things in life with my best intentions. So, yeah. If you guys have any other questions, happy to help. Looking forward to seeing you on future webinars. Like I said, I'm looking forward to teaching you guys about natal charts. Might even have a class about feng shui. I just love all this woo-woo stuff. I did create the Sacred Sound Sanctuary just because I was bored one day and I'm like, a lot of people are interested in learning more about sound baths. Again, I'm surprised. I'm really amazed that people are just so excited about this world. So I created this sacred sound sanctuary. I just dropped a link in there. I am accepting founding members that want to just join me in the community. Inside this community, I plan to teach people about crystals and grids and sound baths and just all the fun stuff that I find fascinating. Just free material, also just a community to connect with other people that are interested in these topics. So feel free to join me in the Sacred Sound Sanctuary as I develop it and just bring more things to life through that channel. So let's see, how many grids do you have in your house? So you buy a bunch of crystals to have available when you feel like you need a new grid. Yeah, I mean, it's true, actually. I wait till you see this thing of crystals I have. It's an entire camera is move my desk over. This is an entire thing of crystals. And so I use these when I am building like the kits for my people, but it's a whole tower of crystals. So yes, I have tons of crystals all over my house. It's a beautiful thing. And yeah, it's definitely my jam. Um yeah, so exactly. Yeah, anytime I feel like I need a new grid, I also gift a lot of my grids to people, or I just know that somebody needs a particular stone and, the stone finds them. So it'll come through me and it'll go to them. All right. So I know it's 8 o'clock. Thank you guys so much for your time this evening. Looking forward to more little impromptu events like this. Hope you have a great evening. I'm here to stick around a little bit more if you guys have more questions. Thank you, Peggy. Appreciate the claps. And I'm new to Zoom too, by the way. I usually use Google Hangouts, so this is kind of fun. Thank you, Renee. Appreciate that. And thank you, Joey. And I hope you guys have a beautiful evening. And look forward to seeing you inside the Sacred Sound Sanctuary. So have a good night. Thanks, Anna.